Alright, so now we're gonna start by actually adding some colors to test the UV and also the texture, how it looks like inside the games, the 3D scene itself. So I'll go ahead and just create a new layer, and I'll try to get some big color on maybe on one of the UV face, like this one's the red color. Probably apply a red color here. Probably want to get something like this kind of is too bright, so I'm gonna get something more around this range for this color here. And then just to sake of color coding, I'll probably use a new layer, and I want to color code this area with another color. Bear in mind these are two different colors, so later on when we look at the scene, and we probably can tell how it looks like eventually. So these two colors here, these two will be the largest space, and this one will probably, I think, it's the carpet itself that actually I put in. So now the next thing I want to do is actually I want to save this file. Okay, go ahead and file save as. Okay, when you save as, right, your file is actually PSD, right? So you probably want to change it to, let's say, PNG or a Targa. So probably this will use a PNG for because we're using Unity for the project. Once you select PNG, right, then you type name. Probably want to change the name, you don't want to use V, so you can use, let's say, room01_D. This will be the word for short name for diffuse. So a name that you should probably be familiar if you use albedo, that would be the diffuse texture also. So usually the industry will name it as D. This means a short form for diffuse. If you use A, there might be a problem because people might thought it's alpha. Usually we don't use albedo, and you just by the A itself we use D, it will be very obvious. It's called diffuse. So once you're happy with this, you save. Then the window come up, this one, PNG format. You ask you which one do you want to use. So probably is okay, just press OK. And once you're okay, right, let's go and check. Let's say put in the scene now. Let's go back to the scene, and now let's choose maybe the floor first, and let's assign a new material. Let's assign a Lambert. So Lambert 4, probably name it, this one is actually room01_D. Okay, so because we want to use this texture, so we'll just assign file as usual, and let's assign the room texture that we created. It's not underscore, yeah, so this one. Once you assign, you probably see this is where the color goes in. Okay, so let's check what is going on around here. Looks like the color is off, so let's investigate what's going on. So we can check the texture itself. Okay, once we turn on this one, we can see the texture. This will be the correct one. This is why it happens, because it actually is correct, because the rest of the UV face is actually going around everywhere. So probably that's why you see very strange color around. So you probably want to put it somewhere that it won't affect, and you can check the UV now. So if you want to check properly, let's go and let's say just isolate the thing and see this will be the UV face. Okay, this one should be correct, and then you will see the other face something like this. Alright, so this one looks okay, while the rest essentially is using the other UV space. So what happens here, this should be part of the floor texture, right? When you go ahead, when you want to assign the floor texture, right? So example, we want to take this one and let's create a UV shell of it, and I think it shouldn't have any problem anymore for most of you. When you click properly and you see this thing come out already, you can just move it and go ahead and assign it to something around here. So let's just, for the sake of actually showing this, you can get something like that. So this will be representative of, let's say, a wood plank textures on the floor. So this, instead of over there, you can see it's actually here, and you can repeat the process again for, let's say, for another face over here. Let's say we click on switch shelf together, you see this button turn on, and then move it and just retexture it, just like what you before when you planning the atlas. Okay, so this is where the texture unwrapping properly take place. So okay, so this is actually how you check the texture. Now notice something also. Do you notice actually the outline? Even our texture here, we also get outline. So the outline is actually appearing on here. So this is happening is because okay, when you save the texture, the outline we actually save it together. So in order for this to work properly, you have to go back to Photoshop, and over here, when you want to save file, make sure you turn off the outline. Make sure to turn off this layer, and then you save again. So when you save again, make sure you save as the same file, PNG file. So if the name is correct, press on it and save. When you save it, when you go back to Maya, you upload itself and you get a right texture already. So now it looks much more correct. So now this is actually how we judge now what happens to the texture here. Now let's go ahead and do a bit more, let's say the wall. So I'm missing the wall. So the wall, if I want to assign, I just press assisting and choose the shader, and I'll get something like that. It seems that the wall is the same issue because a lot of them is actually overlapping, so probably this one will fix it later. I know this wall here is using this red color, right? Okay, so then when this other wall on the other side, I will also repeat them. So this one, I can repeat them and use the same wall outside of the 0 to 1 space, and actually in the sense that we usually call it the yielding textures, and when we want to put here, it's the same function, it works the repeatable texture for the faces just next to it, so we have something like this. So this is something to you to judge on your, let's say, your UV. Also, one thing I also want to touch on is the proper texture sizing for this kind of images. If let's say, why do we use Atlas? And this is where it becomes interesting, because knowing what's the resolution of these individual faces, right? For example, here this in this, right? Knowing this individual face really helps you to understand the relationship between what is the resolution size. So if I were to just go back to my texture again, and I just want to make a marking on it, so I'm just gonna use, let's say, type a text. So this one is actually a 2K texture, right? So this is working with 2K texture, and I'm just gonna type, let's say, 1024 times 1024. So we know this one is actually 1024 size, right? So this one actually is pretty obvious. Let's say, don't change it to larger. So we know this one is this size. So when you turn on the UV, you probably know, okay, this is something that is pretty obvious, 1K texture, right? Then everything else, so if you want to duplicate this one, you can tell this is actually not 1K, but rather it's actually 1K times maybe at least 512. Okay, then you know. For example, here now this one, if I want to put another color, let's say just do another color, then you will see the differences. Okay, so doing color coding for you guys to learn also helps you to understand the texture resolution quality. Okay, let's say you use blue, and then once I'm happy, I save the file as I'm supposed to save this one also as a PSD in case. Okay, so always save PSD. Then when you save, you choose save as a PNG. You can press Ctrl Shift S, right? Then you can save as a open up the save window. So I'll save on the same file. Okay, when I replace it and go back to, let's say, Maya, and you'll see the resolution size. Okay, now I see the resolution size, and I can see that this one is the resolution size. And then for this one, the carpet. Okay, let's go ahead and choose the carpet, and I'm going to just assign the room. And you see now, this one is actually 1024 times 512, and you see that whether this texture doesn't match it or not. So it really depends on, if I say this one, you see the work is kind of bigger, meaning this one is a bit low res compared to this one. So again, it depends how actually I want to do the texture file. Okay, and sometimes if I feel this is actually kind of like too small, because this one seems to be larger than this one, or another way is actually, this is what I will do. Okay, I will probably split this one up. Say, okay, if I find this resolution like this, I'll split it up, and I'll get probably 4 times the resolution. 4 times the resolution. So meaning that now, if I were to go back to this one, and I'll just remove this one, say this one, and I'll just UV shot it, and I want to increase the resolution for just this part only. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and UV, and I'll just double up the size, and I'll get correct resolution. This is why Atlas is so powerful, because you can get the right resolution. Do you see that? Okay, then you probably want to repeat this one 4 times, right? You can choose repeat the same outside the UV. Okay, so this is what we actually use to make sure we have a proper texture density. And if you couldn't get it right the first time, because your texture is pre-planned, your modeling is no worry, because you can actually adjust, like let's say topology and modeling. That is why it's so powerful when using Atlas to do proper planning on the environment. And it's so easy, like usually you can just decide what kind of size is it. So this is why I always encourage that we always think about the texture first before we go into any modeling. Okay, so there's so many things that we should vary off, and this is one of the reasons why we have to plan properly. Right, so let's go ahead and do the other, let's say also the asset, and let's come back after this.